world called the American response to the Russian challenge the Berlin Airlift. The pilots who flew that airlift called it Operation Vittles.
Roger, 410, are you nearing Offenbach now, over? Roger, we're nearing Offenbach now, 410. Roger, I have an aircraft in sight, 17 miles north-northeast of the... Correction, your position is 14 miles north-northeast of the field. At latest Rhine-Main weather, 1,000 overcast, visibility 1 1/2 miles. With a haze, altimeter 3004, over. Roger, 3004, we'll call you right now.
From Frankfurt in the American zone of western Germany to Tempelhof Airfield in West Berlin, 260 miles.
Final controller, 45-second period. No communication is received. Pull up and comply with the emergency procedure, over. Roger, 41. 2500. Roger, you're cleared to descend to 2,000 feet. Take up a heading of 250 QSY, channel H-House. Stand by for final controller, over. Roger, channel H-House, QSY. Your final controller, how do you hear me, please, over? Roger, clear rating you 5 by 5. Roger, Matt 5410, you need not acknowledge any further transmissions for the remainder of the run. Your range now 10 miles from touchdown, 250 degrees your heading. Now steer left to new heading, 240 degrees.
Twin-engine planes, C-47s. Food and fuel bundled into Army duffel bags, loaded on the C-47s. Lifted into the skies on wings of eagles. 260 miles to Tempelhof.
0 degrees your heading. Now 9 5/8 miles from touchdown, correcting over slowly to runway centerline. You're looking good. Suggest you make your final flap setting prior to reaching our glide path. 240 degrees your heading is correcting you too slowly. Steer further left to new heading, 230 degrees. 230 degrees your new heading. Now you're correcting over very nicely. Your range 8 5/8 miles from touchdown. 230 degrees your heading as you're coming over very, very nicely. Approaching our glide path from below, you should have your aircraft slowed down to final approach speed now. 230 degrees your heading. Now steer right to heading 230.
At first, only the most vital supplies. A handful of planes.
Coming in more slowly now, you're looking good. Steer further right to 240. 240 degrees your new heading. Your range now 7 1/2 miles from touchdown, coming up to our glide path from below on heading 240 degrees. 240 degrees. There you're correcting in nicely. Now steer further right to 245. 245 degrees your new heading. Lining up with runway course line very nicely. 245 degrees your heading. Looking good. Steer further right to 248. 248 degrees your new heading. Looking very, very good. Your range now 6 3/4.
Mid-July 1948. Operation Vittles is carrying more than 2,000 tons per day into Berlin. The absolute minimum for Berliners was 4,500 tons. 52 C-54s and 8 C-47s. 2 round trips per day. 250 landings a day at Tempelhof. Not nearly enough. The decision is made to add more planes and to build a second airfield in West Berlin. The airlift would continue.
100 feet per minute down. 5 1/2 miles from touchdown. You're 110 feet below the glide path. Descending at 500 feet per minute, coming up slowly to 80 feet below the glide path now. 246 degrees your heading has drifted you just a little to the left. Steer right into new heading, 250 degrees. 250 degrees your new heading. You're holding steady 65 feet below the glide path. Coming up very slowly now to 40 feet below. Now 30 feet below the glide path, 250 you're heading.
The airlift answered Russia's threat to Berlin. America was there to stay. It had been a long shot, a gamble, a daring answer to Joseph Stalin's arrogance. Now in the United Nations and in Moscow, things were happening. The gates to Berlin swung open again. Berliners proclaimed, "Hooray, we are still alive." May 12th, The first supply trucks in 11 months rolled down the Autobahn to Berlin. The blockade was lifted. Over. In 11 months, Operation Vittles had flown 2,343,315 tons of food and coal into West Berlin. The airlift had saved more than 2 million people from starvation. But more important, it had preserved the freedom of a proud, determined, and heroic city. And Winston Churchill says, "There is no doubt that the steadfastness of Berlin and the West has won a great victory. But our difficulties are not ended yet." The West, the American Eagle, had met and won a severe test in the Cold War, war of nerves. But the challenge of the Russian Bear in the blockading of Berlin had been an open, arrogant, warlike threat. But it was open and above board. Not all of the tensions and fears of the Cold War were so simple. The ramparts of freedom were under attack not only on the front lines at the edge of the Iron Curtain. There was another threat, another menace.
In front of the Iron Curtain, which lies across Europe, are other causes for anxiety. In a great number of countries, far from the Russian frontiers, and throughout the world, communist fifth columns are established and work in complete unity and absolute obedience to the directions they receive from the communist center. These are somber facts for anyone to have to recite on the morrow of a victory gained by so much splendid comradeship in arms and in the cause of freedom and democracy. But we should be most unwise not to face them squarely while time remains.
That communist fifth column, that threat of communist subversion, that red menace, was to reach deep into the heart of America in yet another chapter of the struggle between the eagle and the bear.
You have heard Episode 4, Eagles in the Corridor, another program of the Eagle and the Bear, a radio chronicle of the Cold War, a presentation of the Radio News Department of the American Broadcasting Company. Created, written, and produced by H. Paul Jeffers, directed by Dennis J. Dennehy. Audio engineering by Neil Pulse, Marty Folia, Peter Sarantopoulos, and John Snell. Special effects by Bernard Fambro. The Eagle and the Bear is narrated by Fred Foy. This is Bill Brophy inviting you to hear The Red Menace, the fifth program of The Eagle and the Bear.
Go with Paul Harvey to the heart of the news. Weekdays on the ABC Radio Network.
Sadly, Program 4 is the only one of those Eagle and the Bear shows that survived in my archives all these years. Sent to ABC radio affiliates in the late 1960s. As I mentioned, too many people only remember Fred Foy as the narrator for The Lone Ranger, but he has done so many other wonderful things. Something else great about that tape was the system cue at the end. Back in the days when network radio had more than one announcer doing programs, usually there was a separate announcer at the beginning and at the end. And ABC used what was called the horn cue. Bum-ba-da-da-da-dum-bum. Just a great sound on ABC radio. Let's play that closing system cue again.
Go with Paul Harvey to the heart of the news. Weekdays on the ABC Radio Network.
ABC Radio had a lot of those cues, each one promoting a different program element on the busy ABC Radio Network schedule. That one promoting Paul Harvey news and commentary. You notice it ended with ABC Radio Network. Well, if the announcer at the end of a show said a promo that ended with ABC Radio Network station, such as news comes alive at 55 on this ABC Radio Network station, then we knew to continue listening to the network. We would turn it down so people at home couldn't hear it, and then we would get what was called a closed circuit, a special announcement from ABC. I hope you enjoyed that great historical piece by the wonderful Fred Foy, Program 4 in the series The Eagle and the Bear from ABC Radio.